Would you please introduce yourself? What is it that brought you here, and what is it that you've been? Has it lived up to your expectations? First of all, but first of all, a few words about yourself.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Myself, Zulfiquar Ghadiyali. I report to the grandson of the ruler. His name is His Royal Highness Sheikh Tahnun bin Saeed Al Nahyan. We are like a royal office, and the job that I'm involved with majorly is maintaining bilateral relations with countries and governments across the world on behalf of the royal family, and not the UAE, but the royal office, and which involves making strategic investment decisions based on these are mostly pest-driven, what we call politically, economically, socially, technologically driven initiatives. So let's say, for example, the royal family decides that they want to have, for the next 5 years, look east policy. So in the east, we have China as a big market, we have India as a big market, and then in Southeast Asia, we've got Malaysia and Indonesia as the markets. And then we align ourselves with the vision with our government and our sovereign wealth funds. So wherever the government goes, offers long-term credit limits, then our sovereign funds goes there and offers the long-term investment opportunities in different key sectors in the country. And then we piggyback with them in terms of the royal family office, going into those markets, working on those projects and taking a smaller chunk of investment.
So am I right in saying that in some way you are the royal ambassador of the family?
For the grandson of the king, yes. I used to report to the king, and then
Direct to the king?
Yeah, to the king.
That's
and
amazing.
then I was reporting then to His Highness Sheikh Tahnun because of the ideology that I was believing into. And
may I kindly ask you, what is give us just an idea of the volumes that you have under management?
In terms of money, you mean?
Yes. Is it 3 billion? You said.
That's one of the funds out of.
Just one of the funds is 3 billion.
Yeah, that's out of Zurich
dollars,
office. Yeah.
Zurich office.
So
but there are some other branches as well.
So what happened was, so we have like several key partnerships across the world. And so we never wanted to be just focused only on UAE, from UAE to the rest of the world. So we wanted to create that value addition for ourselves, and we did not want to just go into a new market and set up an office and hire 20 people and then realize that those 20 are good for nothing. I rather wanted to go into a country, set up a partnership with someone who matters to that market or that country. And perhaps that person, when he makes money with us and when we make money with them, that person or that entity becomes an ambassador for us as a testimony.
Okay.
And then we get those partners to have and manage our local office in that market. So when that person who's a billionaire himself, he goes and talks to a billionaire to work with us or vice versa, then those kind of people are taken seriously by both the sides. I'm not an analyst who will just come and tell you this is what you should do for a business. I mean, the chairman will just turn around and say, how much have you made for yourself in your life? It just doesn't suit the personality sometimes.
I understand. So but if you were to pinpoint the criteria that your office is using for selecting the projects that are worth being invested in, what would these be? What are the criteria that you're sort of referring to when selecting those projects?
Yeah. So the mandate to us is more on taking care of the reputation and respect for UAE and the royal family predominantly.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah, the top line and the bottom line, yes, of course, we all have
the ideology is more important than the financial constituent.
Yeah, the ideology and who we are working with. Are they ethical enough? Are they doing good to society at large? Are these people involved in any kind of wrongdoing? So these are the main checks that I need to make. So for example, when the blockchain technology came up, I never subscribed to the idea of Bitcoin bit of it. But
blockchain.
But the blockchain,
long-lived blockchain.
Yeah, yeah, and not that I'm against, and I don't want to start another brawl out here. But I'm not against anything yet. It's just maybe perhaps I haven't got my hands around it. But because predominantly our ideology is more towards using any technology which we can, or any idea for that matter, which can be used for a betterment of society at large. So blockchain, for example, I first started to look at it when an Irish inventor came to me, and he's like, I've got this idea where you can manage all the CSR funds. And I've worked with several governments, and their major challenge is deployment of the CSR funds, because it's kind of a neglected area. Was, perhaps, I don't know what's the situation on it right now. And nobody takes it seriously. Oh, it's an aid. Okay, yeah, let it go. And there is no measurement of that aid.
Could you enlighten us as to how important blockchain is for running a government like the Emirates government? I was told that it's now every effort is being made to ensure the whole government is being run on blockchain. Is that correct, or is it just like wishful thinking?
Not yet, but eventually they will get there. Yes, the fact that UAE has a population of 11 million static and almost 3 to 4 million transient, kind of a population per annum, if you look at the population mix, out of which only 3.5 million are original inhabitants. The Emiratis,
all the rest are
foreigners. So the dependency is almost 80% on foreign workforce. It's not that they don't like the foreign workforce. It's just that they want to bring it down at least by another 10, 20, 30% if they can, because it's just to manage the demographics of the country by itself. Okay. Not that they're against businessmen and investments coming in. It's just specifically to the workforce. So blockchain will help them automatize as much as they can. And so there is still there's a lot of debate around what we should be doing, but as much as we can. It's more of, it's not like a fashion or a style statement, it's much more from the actual implementation part of it to make the process much more easier, because you're dealing with almost 200 nationalities out there.
Yes, and I'm aware of that, the fact that the other technology which goes in tune with the blockchain AI is also being given a very, very close attention by the authorities. How do they match, how do they go together, blockchain and AI? Is it something in common, or these are two different layers sort of taken separately?
I would say AI in itself is an application. Mm-hmm. And
we have Ministry of AI, isn't that?
Yeah,
correct?
We have a Ministry of Artificial Intelligence.
Sultan Omar Olama.
Badr al-Olama, he's a minister, and he's PhD in robotics.
And it's called something like the Ministry of Future. Is that correct? And AI and future.
Well, he's taken a challenge that in next 5 years, the minister will not be a human, it'll be a robot.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and there are now automated police stations now. There are automated completely public service offices where you don't find any humans. It's more of, so it's not that they're anti-humans or anything. It's just that to make this process more simpler and minimum involvement, because there are some things you don't want to tell any human, perhaps.
Your Excellency, I have one important question for you to ask. I've long known that your Royal Office pays particular attention towards investing in sustainable projects.
Yeah.
And I know that sustainable development is of crucial importance in what you're doing, investment-wise and ideologicals. If you just kindly expand on this, what is the interest of the royal family in the sustainable projects? Because I've always been fascinated more, just like yourself, with the technology underlying the thing, not so much with the application of that, as crypto is probably the most exciting, much talked about, but I'm more fascinated with the philosophical side of that. How do you think blockchain and AI, as these two leading technologies, might might crack down the problem of sustainable development, climate change, and what exactly your office is doing in this domain?
Yes, sure. It's a three-layered question, so I will break it into three parts. Answering the first part as to what are we doing in terms of sustainability, we are trying to marry technology to reach out, which we could not in last 100 years of industrialization, perhaps. When somebody told me it's industrialization 4.0, I said yes, because there is still a big number of population which has not been addressed yet.
Oh, yes.
Perhaps they live in very remote areas. And so one of the applications of fintech was very interesting in Africa and in India. Earlier, there was no banking facilities to those people. And now with the advent of Alipay and Paytms in India, if you know, there are people who have never heard of banking are now able to have a cash card and are banking officially. It's like mainstreaming people, bringing them in the mainstream, creating more and more microfinancing opportunities. So One of the application of AI and blockchain, what we're doing is we're bringing the last man into the mainstream. We're trying to create a marketplace. Like there are charities who are just giving people the food and clothing, and then there are some much more matured philanthropy who are doing skill development. Okay, you give a man a fish, then you teach a man how to fish. Okay, now the man knows how to fish, but where do he sell his fish?
Yes.
And who's going to create a fishing industry for him? So we are focusing on that aspect. If you have a buyer and a marketplace created, then automatically you can create an industry. Anyone and everyone will be willing to invest. Always the question at the end of the day is, oh my God, it's such a remote place, and how I'm going to get the product out of this place and bring it to Tesco and sell it and make money. So we address that issue, and we are taking care of that aspect. So I think we have done a good job on that. And we have received a lot of governmental support from different governments of the world. And it's pretty much on the lines of getting me a Nobel Prize. I'm just kidding.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Your Excellency.
My pleasure.
It's been a pleasure to have hosted you, and thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, sir.